This is 5 Minutes to Change Your Life. My name is Joanne Mallon. I'm an author and coach. I love helping people make wee changes that make a massive difference in their lives. Give me 5 minutes of your time today. Just might change your life. Hey, hello. What about you? Joyful January continues, and we are joined today by the writer and broadcaster Julia Raeside. Now, you've probably seen Julia's work in The Guardian. She also writes for The Times, Observer, Big Issue. You might have also heard her on BBC Radio. I mean, she does tons of different things. And somehow she has found the time to write a novel. So Julia's debut novel is coming out very, very soon. You're going to be hearing an awful lot about this book, I promise you, because it's very much of our times. It's called Don't Make Me Laugh. It's set in the world of stand-up comedy. It's about power, control, manipulation, and fighting back. Brilliant. Doesn't that sound brilliant? Don't Make Me Laugh by Julia Raeside is out on the 13th of February, so you could get it as a wee Valentine's gift for yourself, you know? Make sure you do that, by the way. Just treat yourself, get yourself a gift. Sometimes I'll go into a fancy shop and I'll be buying a gift. You know, this kind of place that likes to gift wrap things, and they'll say to you, "Is this a gift, madam?" And I take tremendous joy from saying, "Yeah, it is. It's a gift for me." And then the shop assistant always looks a wee bit taken aback at this. That's not the usual response. And they're wondering, well, are we gift wrapping this or not? Are you just going to take it away? And I can tell they're kind of sizing me up. You know, is this random mommy who may have been on the gin? Is she worth using the fancy gift wrap for or not? I don't know, except there was this one time and the shop assistant asked me, "Is this a gift?" And I said, "Yes, it's a gift for me." And this girl, she looks me dead in the eye and said, "I live to wrap." And then she proceeded to wrap up my purchase with every colour of tissue paper she had at her disposal, all the ribbons, everything. And you know what? On the joy front, I think that was a win-win for both of us. So anyway, my guest, Julia Raeside, has got some really fantastic cultural recommendations for us today. Upcoming exhibitions, books, comedy, podcasts, loads of lovely stuff. So I asked Julia, what brings you joy? And this is what she said.
So things that bring me joy. Well, the first thing I think that brings me joy is stand-up comedy, and that hasn't always been the case. And it might actually surprise you if you read my book, because I've written it about the world of stand-up and the kind of dark underbelly that I keep hearing about from my friends who work in comedy. I decided there was definitely a book in that. But it hasn't killed my love of comedy and going to see it live. I might just, because of the subject of the book, and you'll see if you read it, I go and see more female stand-ups now than I used to. Female and non-binary stand-ups kind of, I feel more comfortable with, I suppose. But I've got loads of favourites. Alison Spittle's a favourite. You find her on Instagram. She's hilarious Irish woman, just really, really brilliant. I saw a comedian called Emma Siddy, who's been on TV. She's been in things like Rose Matafeo's sitcom Starstruck, and she played Sue Gray, you know, sort of the government inspector character. She played her as this kind of, I mean, I can't even describe it, but that was brilliant. So much good comedy. So I think, yeah, stand-up comedy done really well and by the right person can still be an absolute source of joy. I love it. Another thing that I think is a guaranteed Julia pleaser is, and it has to be under these conditions, but a really, really cold, really dry martini. I got into them I think it was about 10 years ago, maybe longer than that. It was at a friend's sort of big birthday, and she got this lovely party at a hotel. And as you walked into the room, there was like this little martini bar just serving martinis. And I was like, oh, I haven't had one of those before. What's that like? And obviously, it's like rocket fuel. It's just basically either very, very cold gin or very, very, very cold vodka. Or if it's a Vesper, it's both. And then pretty much the way I like to drink them, almost no other ingredients. So as long as they're cold, a tiny spritz. I use like a perfume atomizer when I make my own. Tiny spritz of dry vermouth, all shaken up in ice into a chilled glass with either a twist, if it's a vodka martini, a twist of lemon, or a couple of nice olives if it's a gin martini. Oh, there's nothing better to drink. Can't have loads of them, obviously, because they're just alcohol. They're not diluted with anything. But oh my goodness, just guaranteed to be like the thing I will go to. Even if it's not on a menu, if it's a good bar, they'll know how to make a martini, and that's what I will choose. So there's an artist called Tirzah Garwood. I think that's how you pronounce her name, Tirzah or Tirzah. And she's not around anymore. She was painting in the kind of 1920s and 30s. And I found her through her late husband, Eric Ravilius. So he was a really famous sort of artist and illustrator. I think he died in World War II. And she, as is always the case with women in history and art history especially, she was kind of in his shadow because he was the more famous of the two of them. But the Dulwich Picture Gallery have just put on an exhibition of, I think, over 80 of her paintings and wood carvings, and it just incredible work that she did. And I'm bursting to go and see it. I keep seeing it online. It's been constantly advertised in my timeline because I keep earmarking it to remind myself I must go. It's in Dulwich in South London, so I need to get my organisational head on, because I think it's going to be on till at least May. So if you are in London, honestly, and you just enjoy beautiful paintings, go and see it. Her subjects are just really kind of mundane things. There's a piece she did with some characters just sitting in a train carriage that's sort of a companion piece to one that her husband did. But they're kind of monochrome carvings, I think printed onto paper, just absolutely gorgeous detail, and some of her subjects are really sort of surreal and unique. Yeah, so that's the thing I think is going to bring me most joy. I'm really looking forward. Just thinking about going is bringing me joy. And I've been reading over Christmas especially loads of books. I've just hit that point in a brand new author's life where PRs and publicists are now starting to send me other people's books before they come out, which is really exciting. I've never had that before. And I've read some really good stuff over Christmas. And the one I've just finished is called Bittersweet by Hattie Williams, and it's coming out in early July, I think. And it's just one of those books that just sweeps you off your feet in a kind of slightly queasy way. It's brilliant. So she talks about this romance, it's toxic romance, toxic love between a very young it's like a publicity assistant in a publishing house. So it's set in the world of publishing, and that's just always, fascinating anyway. And this young character has loved this kind of much older author all of her life. She really enjoyed reading his books when she was a teenager. She meets him and he's a good 30 years older than her. And of course, they fall into this impossible affair. So that I've really, really enjoyed. And it's, there's lots of darkness in there too, but it's kind of that hopelessness of just getting swept up into a love and a relationship is not going to be good for you. She writes it so well though, so I really recommend that. Yeah, July, that's coming out. And when it comes to places to go, just anywhere in Scotland, just point me towards Scotland. I can't think of a part of Scotland that I haven't loved yet. I'm one of those awful British people who feels like they have an attachment to Scotland. I do have some attachment to Scotland. My dad was a Glaswegian man, born and bred in Maryhill, and still some of my family are up in the Highlands actually now, so further north, in sort of near Inverness, just a bit south of Inverness. I talked to them this week. Apparently it's -20 where they are, and the schools are all shut, and it's just, it sounds like another country. Well, it is another country, but I have a real pull towards Scotland. I love it so much. I love seeing my relatives from there. Most of all, I love travelling up there, and my favourite thing to do in the whole world when I've got the money is to book a berth on the sleeper train that goes from London to either Inverness or just to Edinburgh sometimes. That's my favourite way to travel. And you just get your own cosy tiny little carriage, a little single bunk bed and your own sink, and you can get sort of like food brought to your cabin if you want to. You can go and sit in the kind of the bar carriage and go and have a whiskey and watch the scenery sort of go by, and you get into bed and put your pajamas on, obviously not that way around, and then you wake up in like mountains and lochs and beautiful scenery. It is magical. So I'm bursting to do that again. Hopefully I'll get to go this year because I really, really miss it. When I'm not there, I miss it so much. And then the last thing that springs to mind athletically when I think of it that brings me joy is a brilliant podcast called Now You're Asking, if you haven't heard it, and I hope you have, because it's just wonderful. I think it's on BBC Sounds, but I think you can get it on just podcast apps as well. And it's on Radio 4 too. It's Marion Keyes, sainted Marion Keyes, and her co-host Tara Flynn. And it's just two lovely Irish women with the most lilting, gorgeous voices. I love Irish accents. I'm a terrible sucker for them. And they're just so kind and so considered and thoughtful and kind of no nonsense. And it's like your two best Irish friends solving your problems for you. So people, askers, they call them askers. I'm sorry about the terrible accent. The askers get in touch with quandaries and queries for them. And they very compassionately and sometimes hilariously just help the asker to solve their problem. Genuinely, if you haven't heard it, one of the most comforting, gorgeous, joyful things currently. I think it's on the radio at the moment, but just dive into the archive. It's just blissful.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Julie. There's an awful lot of stuff in there that I'm going to check out. I had already clocked that Terza Garwood exhibition that Julia mentioned. I'm definitely going to be going along to that. It's called Beyond Revilius, and it's running now until the 26th of May at the Dulwich Picture Gallery in London. And as I mentioned, Julia's novel, Don't Make Me Laugh, is published on the 13th of February, so quite soon. So maybe get it from your local independent bookshop or order it from the library. Double joy points for supporting independent shops and lovely, lovely libraries. Joy points, is that a thing? Sure, shall we make it a thing? Oh, let's make it a thing. Yeah. Joy points, it's a thing. Go out and about today and collect yourself a ton of joy points. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.